Two engines, one car. Today we are going to tell you about such cars. We are going to speak not only about models from the past, but from the post-apocalyptic future as well. You will find out about toy models that became full-scale real vehicles with rich history, and about some models that are just about to become famous. Here is our chart of 8 ultimately different cars which have only one thing in common. 2 hearts beat under their hoods. Hello everyone, and let's get started. In the far 70s, when people in Europe were driving Citroën DS, Fantomas was in the cinemas. This 10-wheeled monster, one of a kind, was represented to the wide audience. The official name of this concept car is Citroën DS Michelin. The 9 tons heavy car was 7 meters long and had 2 250 horsepower engines roaring inside. People called this unique car the Yellow Submarine on wheels, and it was manufactured as a trial model. Michelin used it to test new high-tension tires for trucks, so they didn't have to worry about the driver's safety in case a wheel suddenly explodes. But the most important thing is why such an ugly truck should have had not 1 but 2 engines? The answer is quite obvious. The point is that the other nickname of this yellow submarine is Centipede. Of course, it didn't have 40 legs. It didn't even have 10, as we mentioned before, but 11. The first standalone engine put in motion 6 rear driving wheels and 4 front idle wheels. The second engine was designed to run only one 11th wheel, which was being tested and placed inside. At the right moment, it went down and touched the ground. The test was starting right after that. The Volkswagen Golf 87 was driven by 2 engines and had 650 horsepower. But even such powerful parts haven't helped the car to win the famous race to the clouds, the competition it was especially assembled for. But first things first, in the 80s, there was a direct competition between Audi and Volkswagen. Trying to surpass the competitor, the latter began conducting experiments with cars that had 2 engines. Since the new models were bound to succeed across the continents, the management decided to take part in the famous Pikes Peak International Hill Climb, where the Audi Quattro shone on for several years. The second-generation Volkswagen Golf, equipped with 2 1.8-liter engines, was used as a base for the racing prototype design. The honor of driving such a mountain fighter was given to Klaus Joachim Klein. The car got off to a running start, but came in only 3rd. Given this situation, the company decided to roll the dice and switch from regular engines to turbocharged ones, the total power of which was 650 horsepower each. According to the results of intermediate measure, Klein was faster than his main rival from Audi team. It was not meant to be that Golf would see a final flag, as its front suspension got broken just at the last couple turns before the finish line. Two engines seemed attractive to auto-customizing companies as well, but not all of them risked getting involved in such difficult projects. But it did not stop with Roland Mayer and his famous masterpiece, Audi TT MTM Bimoto. Mayer equipped an Audi Sport Coupe with an additional engine apart from its native one. As a result, he had a couple of turbocharged 1.8-liter engines with the total power 740 horsepower inside the car. During the first test drives in 2007, the 2-engine vehicle made 100 kilometers per hour just in 3.5 seconds, and its maximum speed was 395 kilometers per hour. It is hard to believe, but at the time, it made the Audi TT MTM Bimoto a real trouble for an iconic sports, as well as the car Bugatti Veyron, which could reach 100 kilometers for the same time. The off-roader Jeep Hurricane. Its design involves the use of 2 separated 5.7-liter engines, Hemi V8 330 horsepower each. They accelerate the off-roader from 0 to 100 kilometers just for 4.9 seconds. But 2 engines are not the only interesting point in this model. For example, it has an independent wheel suspension. All 4 wheels can spin independently, giving the car an opportunity to move sideways. So basically, it can make a full circle on spot. A couple of shirt-sleeve engineers from Dirt Everyday Project needed an AWD vehicle. In one of the episodes, Fred and Dave decided to drive a Cadillac cross-country in Palm Springs, California. In their garage, the guys had the classic Eldorado, the front-wheel drive model of 1974 with 8-liter engine. And if I'm not mistaken, a desert requires an all-wheel drive vehicle. The two friends didn't bother to think twice. They brought in another front-wheel drive Cadillac Eldorado, took out its front part, namely axle with engine, and mounted it under the trunk of the first car. So it looks like the Eldorado, but has 16 liters, 2 engines, and it's an all-wheel drive. Like in the previous story, it is hard to measure by eye how much horsepower the car has. With some cars, it's pretty obvious. We are talking about an incredible hot rod with 2 engines, the total power of which is 2,500 horsepower, and the Bentley Continental price. The model, called Twice Blown, is a Ford delivery sedan of 1932, but almost completely revamped. There are 2 1250 horsepower twin turbocharged Hemi engines, one after another in the enormous engine compartment. The huge rear wheels receive crazy torque, and if it is not enough for someone, there are 2 nitrogen cylinders in the trunk. As weird as it may seem, it is absolutely legitimate to drive this car on city roads. Usually, people made small copies of real cars, but in this case, it was the opposite. We are happy to bring twin-mill Hot Wheels to your attention. A car copied from a toy. The toy went on sale in '69 and became the first company car with the unique design, and it was terrific. The creator of the model suddenly realized that the car body was too wide. It was that big that it could contain something more besides one power unit. And right after the collector's batch of 12 million items was produced, a lot of people got the idea to design a full-scale model. The first working prototype was presented in 2001 at SEMA show in Vegas. It was a real, fully functional car, hot rod and supercar at the same time. It had 2 8-liter Chevy engines. However, the view from the cockpit is pretty limited, and it is all because of the engines. But all of the inconvenience is compensated by the incredible design and perfect recognition of this model. So here is the last car on our list today. We are talking about the Citroën 2CV Sahara, the only 2-engine mass-produced vehicle. Sahara can be proud not only of its unique parts, it also has a rich history. Everything started in 1965 in Nigeria, when a cheap French car was purchased by a British anthropologist for work. Due to the civil war flamed in Nigeria, the anthropologist had to stop his research and return home. The British guy decided to come home right on his Citroën, though that practically could not happen. It is unbelievable, but the Duck, as it was called at the time, had successfully passed several thousand miles right through the Sahara Desert, so it completely approved its title and became iconic. The plant produced 694 such cars. All of them were 4x4 and had 2 engines, with first 12 and then 14 horsepower. The engines were located above the wheel axles and were air-cooled. Each of them had its own ignition system and a separate fuel tank. By this, the designers wanted to make the car more resilient in harsh conditions, and it also improved its permeability due to its unusual full drive system. And even though the maximum speed of the Citroën was just 105 kilometers per hour, it did not stop it from crossing the biggest desert in the world. The famous car has been resold a lot of times, yet in March 2017, it was auctioned off for $75,000. The Traveler was sold with the original front engine, spare crankshaft, and had the original registration documents from Nigeria and a few photos of the machine in the Sahara Desert. And that's all we have for today. Thank you all for watching.
Push it now, we push it.